Hey guys, this is Danny.
And this is Jenny Fuentes.
And this is Dear Husband, Dear Wife.
Yes, it is a podcast that is about an imperfect couple keeping it 100% real. Where we talk about dating, marriage, and sex.
Yeah, all of it.
Yes, it is unscripted
Mm-hmm.
and it's centered in the truth.
Yes, we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the messed up, the shady, the pretty things, the beautiful things. All of it.
Oh,
Jam-packed.
yes. So thank you for tuning in and
We
get
hope.
ready.
Yeah,
We hope what?
I don't know. We just hope. We just hope.
We just hope that you will enjoy the episode that you're about to hear.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Enjoy.
Hey guys, welcome back.
Welcome, welcome.
This is Dear Husband, Dear Wife with Danny and Jenny.
And we are excited to be back.
And we're back with another one.
Yeah.
As DJ Khaled says, and another one. And another one.
Awesome. So today's episode's actually something that we've always talked about with a lot of our married.
Well, not always, but
But
it's come up as
it's
topic
very
of common,
It's a
topic of
common-
conversations.
Yeah. Conversation that we've had with most of the couples that we have had the privilege and the honor to either mentor or have welcomed us into their lives, to speak into their lives.
Yeah.
And so,
And that topic is
yeah, that love is not enough.
love is not enough. Bow, 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 bow.
Yep, that's exactly what it
Bow,
is.
bow. We don't have money for better equipment, so everything is going to be, all the noises are going to come from our mouths. Just so you know.
Yeah, so I think it's really important to actually let's give some background as to why we're saying that love is not enough.
Love is not enough because it is not. That's it. That's the proof
It's
that
a
you need.
very bold statement
Yeah.
to make.
Yeah.
And I would say
Well, I think the reason as to why we've learned, and I say that we've learned because of the conversations that we've had in the past, is because of the fact that, you know, people assume, or there's this assumption that once you're like crazy in love with someone, that's going to be like the foundation of the rest of your lives. And the truth is that that's just a piece of it. Obviously you have to love someone in order to be with them, you know, if you want to be with them. But to say that love is all you need and that love is going to fix everything, no. Now, you're probably thinking, well, Danny, that's contradicting because the Bible said that love conquers all. Yes, love conquers all. But what you're not reading is that you also have to put in the work.
yeah.
Got to put in that work.
Yeah, and I think the love that we're defining here is the eros love, that erotic, passionate love. You know, we're not talking about agape love, like love of mankind, where God loves us unconditionally, right?
That's
it's
a different kind of love.
Yeah, so I just wanted to find that off the bat. Like, we're talking about that eros love in a relationship's not enough. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. So eros is like, again, passionate love. Like, it's very erotic. It's all about like, I'm so in love, and the butterflies and whatnot. That love that you feel at the beginning when you're dating, that is what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
So, with that bold statement, as we were saying, that eros love is not enough. And the reason it's not enough, it's because the truth of the matter is we as human beings are comprised of values and vision. If you're an individual who has no vision for life, get working on your vision for life. You know, because you are just going to bring down someone else into misery if you start dating or if you're married. Like, you gotta have vision, man.
Gotta have something. We're not talking about a 5 to 10 year plan.
No.
You just gotta have a goal. You gotta have something in mind in regards to that.
Exactly. And so I think one of the biggest things that we wanted to shed light into is you can be in love with someone, you can be engaged to someone, and I'm going to speak into dating and engaged couples because it gets trickier once you are married and all of a sudden you're like, well, this is my vision for life and these are my values. And like, we're just like, that's a whole another uncharted territory that we will have to speak into later on in life, but not right now. For the sake of this episode, we're going to keep it for dating and engaged couples.
Okay.
So I want to be careful about that.
Cool.
Okay. But I think one of the biggest things that has affected many marriages is the fact that you end up getting married because you've fallen in love. And then people say all of a sudden we have fallen out of love. And the reason why that is, it's because all of a sudden your vision of life and your values are no longer aligned. Does that make sense?
Okay.
And so that's why we say that love is not enough. For all the couples out there who are dating or those who are engaged, we urge you to really take a time to talk about your values in life and your vision for life.
Yeah.
Because if they're not aligned, it's just going to create so much turmoil and tension in your marriage that unfortunately some marriages end up getting divorced because of that.
But I also want to say to that, when you're talking about aligned, do not get the impression that absolutely everything has to match or absolutely everything has to correlate. No, this is just, again, we're all people. We're broken. We got issues. We're working on them. This is just to say that where your goals want to be or where your dreams are at, that they will meet, that they will, cross.
Your non-negotiables.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's when we say aligned. So don't get the impression that like, oh, my wife wants or my future wife wants a Lexus and I hate Lexus and I want a Honda because they're cheaper. Like, no. We're not talking about that.
Yeah.
Just, the deep core of where you want to be later in life kind of thing.
So, for example, one of my biggest values in life is being part of a church community and being in a marriage where God is the center. Like, Jesus is the center of our marriage.
Yes.
And so that requires both of us to pursue Jesus as individuals.
Yeah.
And both of us to pursue Jesus as a couple. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's one of my non-negotiable values in life, and also my non-negotiable values and vision of what I would envision my marriage to look like.
Yeah.
Okay. My other vision, and I said this to Danny when we first started dating, was education. Like, I wanted Danny to go to school and be educated.
Yes, which I don't like school. Till this day, I don't like school.
Yes.
But I understood that was something that Jenny really desired. And when we first got married, I wanted nothing to do with school. But because of the position that we were both in at the time and financially, I realized that the last thing I wanted was to drag Jenny down because of my failure to take opportunities educationally.
Yes.
So I, made the decision to go to school, but that was one of those things.
Yeah. And one of Danny's values is financial stability.
Yes.
And so
which we don't have.
Not yet. But to me,
we don't have.
Yeah. And so for me, it has required me to be a lot more mindful of.
Well, when I say we don't have, I mean, we're not up to where I would like for us to be.
Yes.
That's not saying that we're just super reckless.
No.
But I'm just saying we're not where I would like for us to be financially.
And so
but we are working.
Yes,
and we have progressed a lot.
And because that's a value of Danny's.
Yeah.
It has become a value of mine now, because it's kind of like the way that Danny did his education. Like, because I love him, or because he loved me and he realized how much that was of an importance, it became a value for him in education, and vice versa. The financial aspect has become a very big value. And I think as I'm getting older, I'm realizing, oh my gosh, there is so much value in financial stability, right? So I think that's the other aspect of of what I'm saying. Like, that's one of Danny's values that I have assimilated to and honored and adopted, in other words, into. So, I think the other thing that we talk about, that couples don't talk about, is like, couples need to talk about like children, how many children they want to have. What does that look like? What does it look like once the children are in the picture? Am I going to be a stay-at-home dad, or am I going to be a stay-at-home mom? Mm-hmm. Or are we sending our kids to public education or private education or homeschooling? Yeah. Like, these are big values that sometimes couples don't talk about, and they wait until they get married. And then all of a sudden it's like...
Or sometimes don't even talk about it at all.
Until it happens.
Until that, moment in their lives come up, and then they figure it out,
Yeah, and I think, and that's where the tension comes in. So I think one of the biggest, I guess, not advice, but one of the... Opinions that we have is this. Is like, couples who are dating and engaged, who are seriously dating, I guess, and who are considering marriage, should really sit down and talk about these things.
Have these conversations.
It is so important to talk about, like, where do you see yourself in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years?
If you're engaged, that should be an indicator that both you and your significant other are pretty much on the same page as to where you want your lives to go. Or at least have the idea of where you want your lives to be.
Exactly.
If you're engaged.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that probably might feel like, oh, Danny, that's some pressure, man. That's some pressure. Yes. Sorry. Yes, it is. Because you want to get married. So, yes, these things are going to come up. Don't be a fool. Talk about these things with your significant other way before even engagement comes up.
Yes.
For those of you that are just seriously dating, that is like, I mean, right now is the opportunity. If you haven't done so, sit down, have those conversations.
Because if not, then you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Also.
And what's gonna suck is that if you guys get to marriage and you tie the knot, and then all of a sudden, you whip out 2 kids, and then you find yourselves arguing because dad thinks this is the better school, but then mom thinks this is the way better school. All of a sudden, the little things that shouldn't cause a big friction are the ones that end up causing the biggest frictions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I get it. There's some things that you're like, well, we'll get to that when we cross that bridge. The truth of the matter is like, it's always good to
right now we're in love, man. We got it because we're in love.
I think this is what the point that I'm trying to make, and I think correct me if the point that I'm about to make you disagree with, babe. But this is why dating shouldn't just be something that like you're casually just doing. Like,
no, like I've told guys, like, it's interesting.
If you're not ready to have these conversations, then why the heck are you dating, in other words?
Yeah. Like, I've actually had conversations with younger guys, where it's like, oh yeah, I had, my girlfriend and this, and then they end up breaking up. And when they tell me the stories of why they broke up, like, I always ask them, like, hey man, would you marry that girl if you had the opportunity? And they're like, they're hesitant. And I'm like, well, okay. You hesitated with that question. My question is, why did you bother dating them? Because it's like dating shouldn't be a thing where you go and quote unquote test drive the relationship.
Yeah.
If you're going to date, by the time you date someone, you should already have an idea as to where you're going.
I think this is what I'm trying to say. And let me be careful.
And again, there is pressure.
Yes.
Yeah, there is pressure. And you're probably going to hate me for it and say, well, Danny, how the hell am I supposed to know if she's the one? Well, that's why you have to pray about it.
Yeah. And I want to be careful. Like, okay, so hold on. Like, what we're trying to say is this. Our hope is that single people who are listening right now, our hope is that if you are going to go out and test the waters, quote unquote, date,
Test drive.
Date, I'm assuming you're choosing to date not because you feel lonely, but because you are thinking already of like, I want to eventually spend my life with someone and commit to someone. Does that make sense? There's online dating. Okay, so let's say we're not talking about I'm gonna go on a date right now, blind date with this guy to get to know him, right? We're talking about if you're gonna choose to even go on a blind date, I'm assuming there's a part of you that wants to eventually be committed in a relationship.
Yeah.
Not just because you feel lonely, but because you're ready to actually take that step and to be able to say, I can actually financially, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, like commit to someone. Does that make sense? That's what we're talking about. Now, if you're doing it because you're lonely, there's so many other ways that you can, like.
We'll buy you a stuffed animal that you can hold at night when you go to sleep, okay?
But I guess what I'm trying to say is, again, we want you to understand the difference between eros love, right? Like, we want you to make sure that you are understanding that just because you are infatuated with a guy or a girl doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be enough. And it shouldn't be enough. Like, if you are going to go ahead and date and commit to someone, it is time to start having these conversations eventually. Not at the beginning of the first date. Yeah. You're not going to go to someone and be like, I just met Danny, by the way. So today we're going on a date. Yeah, cool. So, hey, so what are your visions and values in life? We're not saying
5 kids.
That. I know.
I want to get married in a year and a half, and I want 5 kids.
We don't want you to scare the person that you're going out on a date with either.
Don't do that.
We're just saying, like, for those people who are now in a serious relationship, committed relationship, we want you to ask those questions because it is so important. It is so important for you to have same values and same, or at least 90% of your values align.
Yeah.
And then you have to ask yourself, which ones are the ones that you're willing to be very flexible with? Because that's what marriage is. It's a compromise.
It's a give and take, guys.
Yes.
It's not just about you anymore. If you're looking to be with someone for the rest of your life, then you should already understand that there are going to be things that you're going to have to make a decision whether you want to stick to your guns or be lenient because your significant other is the person that wants that.
Correct.
You have to understand that.
And I think those are the most important, that's the most important point of view. It's like the idea of like, we want couples to understand that just because you are deeply in love, you cannot disregard the core of the existence of what you value and who God made you to be.
Yeah.
You got to honor those values and that vision and that calling that God has placed over your life, even within your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And your partner should be able to reciprocate that towards you. And also, your partner should be able to do that themselves, too.
Yeah.
And be receiving that from you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the times, we are so deeply in love, erotically in love, we're passionately in love, that we jump into like, let's get married, let's do life together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we have completely disregarded our vision.
And then also, you have people that are just too horny and get married.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but I'm sorry because the church has a lot of the times, purity culture has screwed us up, like in so many ways. And that's another conversation. That's another topic for another day. But I am sorry for those couples who like you felt the pressure from the church to have to get married and you were so young and you were like, I need to get married because I'm horny. Like
I don't want to sin, so I have to get married.
Yeah. I guarantee you more than 90% of or at least 80%, I'm going to be gracious, of those couples have probably struggled because they, again, got married out of pressure to extreme physical attraction. Eros, again, and not...
So now they find themselves in the position when they're like, so now what do we do?
Yeah, and so what we're saying is, be wise. Like, really weigh things out in a relationship that you are in. Like, weigh your values. What are the things that are so important to you? Like, if there's an exercise that I want to give you right now, it's like this. It's like, make a list of like your values, your top 10 values. Out of those 10 values, which ones, highlight the ones that are like your non-negotiables, like the ones that you will not under any circumstances be willing to compromise with. And then look at the rest that are not highlighted. And those are the ones where you can have a very fruitful conversation with your partner and say, okay, hey, these are the ones that I'm willing to be flexible in. You know, like, let's talk more about this. What does it look like? And bring that to the table. Bring both of you guys, do that and exercise and both talk about it. And it's a beautiful date night conversation to be able to have. Yeah. You know, it's like God gives us wisdom. Let's use that wisdom. It's not just enough to be infatuated or in love with someone. You have to do more than that. Love takes work. Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is non-judgmental, you know. But if you're married, at that point, you got to exercise that 1 Corinthians 13 love, you know. But before, for those of you who are engaged, for those of you who are dating, it is your opportunity right now. And you have that beautiful opportunity, which is to like have these deep conversations and honestly weigh your heart out and say, oh my gosh, does this person really align with my values or not?
Yeah.
You know, I genuinely believe and am a firm believer that it's better to be heartbroken for a little bit than to be completely miserable in a marriage
for a very long
time.
Yeah.
You know? And again, like, you want to make sure that your values are aligning and your vision in life is the same. Like, okay, I see us living here forever. We're going to be in LA for the rest of our lives. Cool. Or you can say, one of my values is when we have kids, I want to be closer to my parents. But in the meantime, that means I can go anywhere else.
Yeah.
And so while we're married and we're enjoying our lives, let's do it. Let's take those risks and opportunities. For some people, it might be, I always want to be close to my family. And that means, cool. For some people, it might be, I want to have kids immediately. For others, it might be like, no, I actually want to wait 5 years. I want to enjoy my marriage.
And for some, it literally might be, I don't want kids.
Yes, exactly. And what does that look like? Have those conversations. Yeah. For some, it might be, I want to be the stay-at-home mom. And for others, it might be like, no, I want to be able to work. For others, it might be...
I want to be a stay-at-home dad.
Yeah. And
that's all right.
Yeah. And then some might be like, oh, no, I want you to work. You know, so those are important things. Those are really, like, what are your expectations from your partner? And what are you also bringing into that relationship?
And for both parties, what are you willing to compromise?
100%.
Because again, marriage is going to require some compromising. You know, earlier you had said, babe, that this is more for like the people that are seriously dating and engaged.
Yeah.
But I also want to like share some
go for it.
Insight into those that are married. And the only thing that comes to my mind is you did the work to get in. Now you got to do the work to stay in.
Ooh, so good.
You know, like work to get in, work to stay in.
Yeah.
You know, it's...
And that means now you got to like...
That means
unless, again, we've always said this, again, a dear husband and dear wife, we believe that for marriage is for life. Unless you're in a very physical... abusive, verbally.
Unless you find yourself in a relationship that is definitely the kind that you shouldn't be in.
Yes. Where your safety is compromised.
Where your safety is completely compromised, then that's a different story.
Yeah. But
for the rest of you that are not in that position.
Yep.
You know.
Say the statement again. You
got to work to stay in. Work to get in, work to stay in.
Yep.
You know, and the truth is, for those of you men that are listening that have been married for years, you understand what I'm saying when I say this. We cannot continue to believe that you can just hit the cruise control button and that your marriage will arrive to its destination without you worrying about it. I have many times... within the 11 years that Jenny and I have been married, have through my imagination have hit the cruise control button and have assumed that my marriage was driving itself to our destination, only to realize that it was not going anywhere. All of a sudden I'm thinking, oh, we're fine. And then Jenny sits and we have a serious conversation, and then I'm blindsided by like everything that she feels. And I'm like, what? Like, I thought we were over here, but we're not. We're down here. So those were just small moments of reassurance that your marriage is not just going to fly by. Mm-hmm. For anyone, like Jenny said earlier, oh, we fell out of love. I've learned something, guys. This is what I've learned. It takes two people to make a relationship, and it only takes one to break it.
People say that it's actually, a society, some people will counteract and argue and say it takes two to make it work and it takes two to break it. But in reality, it is one.
No, it just takes one to break it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Marriage is something beautiful. It's beautiful. It's pure. It's kind. It's everything that the Bible says it is. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's something that we have to constantly work on. I mean, guys, we've been married for 11 years. Mm-hmm. And now, thank God, better now than never, but now I'm realizing like, oh dang, like this is not easy. Being married is not easy. It's hard and it's work. Mm-hmm. The second I start to become very comfortable and assuming that this marriage is driving itself is the day where I'm going to get really surprised. Because it takes two people to make a marriage and only one to break it. And so it's one of those things where, love is not enough.
Yeah.
Love is a piece of the foundation.
Yeah.
Love is your foundation, is what it should be. Let love be your foundation, but understand that you have to build on that foundation.
100%.
You have to build on that.
Yeah. And I think that's where, agape love kicks in. Like once you're loving that individual for who God created them to be, and you're honoring them, despite your disagreements, despite the fact that you may not see eye to eye. And so I think we want Eros love to transform into agape love in your marriages, in your relationships. But it also means you are doing the work, as Danny was saying, to make that happen. And so we just want to encourage couples out there who are married to have these conversations also. I know it can be scary and daunting.
And you guys are probably thinking, hey, Danny, we've been married for much longer than you guys. Yeah. Man, that feels like it's gonna be that crack that's gonna break everything. Don't be afraid, guys.
There needs to be healing.
There has to be healing, yeah.
And I think sometimes that's all it takes. It takes a conversation, as scary as it might be. It takes a conversation to hear one another and to be able to understand one another. Like, how wonderful, as scary as it can be, how wonderful is it also to be able to say, wow, you've been carrying that for so long.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that that's how I was making you feel.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see how we can make this happen. Let's see how we can both meet each other halfway to make that vision of yours or that value of yours an important one again. And
then you start to work on it, and then all of a sudden, you see. Hey guys, thank you so much again for listening to the episode and for tuning in to the podcast. Again, I hope that the episodes and the podcast are encouraging. I hope that it brings you guys new light, new perspective, a new approach to marriages, to relationships. We hope that it gives you guys the right tools to be able to move forward and how it fits best for you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or you want more details, just go ahead and follow us on Instagram at our Instagram handle, which is Danny and Jenny, or email us at contact@dannyandjenny.com. We look forward to
hearing from you.
Yeah, and to the next episode.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care.
Adios.